Hello everybody, we're just warming up our tractor here on good old Gelvin Valley. We are in the process of baling up the straw. We've almost completed it too. I think we have just a couple more fields. Let's see, maybe 4 of them. 37, 8, 2, and 1. Otherwise, we have marched across all the rest of the fields. So let me get this puppy moving and we'll get on to the races. Assuming we can get this thing to budge. Yeah, it just doesn't want to climb this hill. So we'll get up around this corner here. And I can see I am running out of time, and I think the dealership down there helpfully just continues the contract on. It's just that we'll be paying just a little bit more for the use of the baler. I'm kind of zipping on the trees here. There we go. Much easier when we are working with gravity versus against it. Well, at the period of time that I'm recording this, I know we are right on the cusp of having another Farming Sim version out, Farming Sim 25. So I know there's been a lot of excitement over that, and frankly, I'm kind of excited to see it too. I've seen a number of videos of those who were given opportunity to enjoy it. Let's see, do I have another? No, I guess I don't. I guess I can set up my GPS for those who are given opportunity to kind of see it kind of on a pre-release basis. Oh, get it this way. I'm not sure that's going to work. Let's try that. Yeah, that should work. We are booking. There's some really cool things. You know, for all the complaining many folks do about Giants and the game they've produced and maybe slow progress in a number of ways, they really have made a lot of substantive improvements to the game over the years. And, you know, it's the new one is going to be nothing like this one here. This is Farm Sim 15, of course, and still a wonderful game in its own right, but you know, just doesn't have many of the bells and whistles that some of the newer versions have. And I gotta say, I mean, some of the versions that came out have been better than others. And it'd be interesting to know folks' opinions on that as to what the best versions have been. Personally, I really, really enjoyed Farm Sim 17, and I thought up to that point and even beyond, it was a very solid version of the game. I think it was better than 19, that's just my opinion, in terms of how it looked, and for me a lot of it is about the look. You know, I prefer, for example, 15 over 13. 13 had this look of being kind of cartoonish. At least that's kind of how it came off to me. 15 looks way more realistic. And frankly, I almost think 11 looked better in many respects than 13 did. And some of it is, I don't know, 13 just looked cartoony to me. And I think some of it is getting a match between the foliage and the equipment. You know, if you have, and that was, I feel, 19's problem, is the equipment looked great, you know, looked perfect. But then the worlds that they were put in had, you know, foliage that looked like it belonged in in some cartoon, or in a sky that looked like it came out of Minecraft or something. It just didn't seem to fit. So if you're going to have these perfect looking machines, then everything else, there needs to be some effort put in on the rest of how the game looks, for it to really make sense. And I think for 15 and for 17, when you just look around and you see the world that this tractor is working in, it makes sense, at least to my eyes. And I know there's many opinions out there. I know I just saw a video here the other day where the guy said he felt 19 was the franchise's best version. I would disagree, but he's entitled to his opinion. And 22, I just haven't played on enough to hardly even be able to give a decent opinion. But I saw a video Scroft made on 25, and it just looks amazing. In terms of what's coming with the ground deformation, or however you say that, and even the season stuff that they have in there. Even the snowfall. He showed a episode where there was some snowfall, and even that looked more realistic. It just looked like it was really a snowy day that any of us, that are familiar with snow would encounter it from time to time. And I know versions previous to the ad, they had snowfall and things like that in there, but it just, you could tell it was a little cartoony, not so anymore. So just some amazing things coming, and that just barely scratches the surface, of course, in terms of what's going to come. And yes, I bought it. I bought the first year pass, or whatever they call that, so I'll get some DLCs with it. I don't know, I may be kind of silly that way, but I like having a full set, so I typically ultimately will end up purchasing all of it, whether I use all of it or not. So I figured getting the first year pass is probably the most economical way to end up with several DLCs. So that's kind of what I chose to do. And I think, this is November, what are we, 9th, 10th, somewhere in there. We are just a couple days away from the 25 release. So like I say, I know there's a lot of excitement out there with anticipation for it. You do wonder how the Giants determine who they're going to share the pre-release game with. You just know they probably got to sign an NDA, what we would call a non-disclosure agreement, or, well, kind of an NDA. Oh yeah, there's my rental contract, just renewed, and charging me money. Because they want to make sure you don't just distribute their game before it's intended to be distributed to the public. But you do wonder who they pick. I've heard some speculation before that, well, they just want people who are going to say just good things about it. And that's probably true. Why would you give your product that you're hoping to make a lot of money on, why would you give it to someone who just bashes it and runs it down? So I totally get that. But it's probably someone that has a certain size audience at least, and a lot of experience in the game. I got a lot of experience, but they wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. Number one, I don't think I would do it, even if they did offer, because then you would just have to do it, and I don't know, I'm enjoying what I'm doing here, and yeah, they probably don't want to promote their older versions, so I'm pretty sure I'm totally off their radar, which is fine. How about all of you, everybody here intending to get 25 or some of you sticking with the older versions, I know I've heard from some of my friends, like Russell, I think he's going to get it, and then we'll probably wait to play it for a little while until you get some mods that come out. And totally get that. I mean, it's gonna... I should go to the top of the field again and just start... Oh, mamma mia, this is painful. No, it's so steep. I just don't want to climb the steepness every time we're turning a corner here. I can sneak it up diagonal. It's probably too steep to be doing what I'm doing in it. That's I think the lesson here. Alright, now that we're back up top, we'll take it on again. And I know someday when I have decent finances, I definitely want one of these Fendt tractors on my farm. These are just outstanding mods. Very thankful. My friend Eustace Farmer had a video on them. That's kind of how I learned about them. And they're still out there if you look hard enough. It'll be interesting to see too how the game changes map making. I know we've talked about this before. In the old days, the mapper's vision is kind of what went into a map, and once it was created, it was pretty much set in concrete. What you see in here, there's very little you can do with it. I mean, you can till up ground various places. Maybe you can do that, create a new field. But for example, the fence that's over there, I can't take it out. I mean, that's kind of a map object, and I know the mapping system's been changing steadily ever since FarmSim 19. Where it's more and more placeable based, and I think that's ultimately good because it gives the player a lot more flexibility. When he's in there doing whatever he's doing, okay, take out that fence if you don't want it there. Remove that building. Oh, buildings, that's another thing that I was just astounded with. I think occasionally, I seem to recall there would be a mod in some of these older versions. But farmers a lot of times will build buildings on their farms, and as everyone knows, you can't just construct it overnight. It takes time, to set up a building. You gotta pour a concrete foundation, there's framing, and then there's maybe metal sheeting, there's roofing, all these different things that get done to a building before it becomes functional and of use. Well, in FarmSim 25, apparently, there's at least some of the buildings you can watch them being constructed, and it happens kind of over time. And I assume if these buildings have functionality in them, you won't be able to use them until they're fully constructed. So that's kind of a cool feature. And again, I saw this on a Scroft video. I think he just showed there was like a GIF or something of the process where you could see not necessarily board by board, but it definitely was kind of over a period of time that something was constructed. And so, I mean, this is kind of the nice part about being more placeable based, that we're able to do that. Alrighty. We survived just miserable steep in here. That's why it's just crawling. And we are done, folks, with this field. Head over here through our little gate and continue the work. Already have her on, locked and loaded. Here we go. Oh, except I'm an idiot and I thought I had lowered my... I guess I was already lowered. There we go. So that's a cool feature that's coming out, and if anybody remembers what that mod was, in these older versions, I kind of think I remember seeing it in Farm Sim 15. It was some script, where, oh goodness, there's some straw I'm never gonna get. Kind of went over the fence. If anybody remembers what that was, where you could see buildings constructed over time, please let me know. Part of me wants to look that up. So anyway, lots of excitement, lots of changes coming, and maybe part of the reason I stick with these older versions, part of it is an inherent sense of not wanting all the hard work that went into some of these old mods, just to go by the wayside. And folks, it's getting harder to find mods of these older versions. Not so much 15 yet, but if you're looking for even 13 is getting tougher to find. There just aren't the sites out there that had them, and a lot of the links the modders put them at, Mediafire accounts or wherever, are slowly getting broken, where these sites probably have these big mod files, and if nobody's downloading them, probably these servers or whatever are saying, all right, we're gonna get rid of them. And so a lot of times you may even still have a site out there that still promises, a 13 mod or an 11 mod, and you go to click on the link and there's no file to be found. So probably if there's anything in the past you want to preserve, probably ought to do it sooner rather than later. If you want to come back. I know, I'm probably the only nut. Well, I know I'm not the only nut that, spends time in these older games. But just in terms of maintaining file space for it, I realize that all comes at a cost. And not everybody's willing to do it. But I know I have seen some out there that are putting Herculean effort to preserve a lot of those old mods. Particularly Farm Sim 08 and 09, I belong to a Discord group, that's trying to preserve those and have a special site set up, and it's amazing to see the heart some people have for preserving that. You wish the Internet Archive, would store that stuff. I don't know if anybody's ever been, I think it's archive.org, and they literally store copies of web pages, which is kind of cool. How they were at a certain point in time, I have no idea how it finds them all, if it finds them all. But it doesn't, of course, save like mod files or those kinds of things. Maybe there'd be a way to do it. I really don't know. Alright, let me dump this off. We are down to 2 fields. Whoop. Don't want to crash. I see my fuel tank. Whenever you rent a vehicle, it comes with a full fuel tank. And I've often wondered if there was a way to siphon the gas out, fuel rather, so I could keep my own fuel tanks full, but I think that's probably against the rental contracts, so I will forego doing that. Now wait a minute, I asked you to, oh, I'm pressing the wrong key, I wonder why. There we go. Anyway, with the remaining time that we have, I'm really curious anybody's thoughts on Farm Sim 25 or anything you want to share down in the comments. But I had an experience this past week that was very uncomfortable for me. I know, as everybody knows here, I work in what's called public accounting, which means we help people. There's a lot of business consulting if they have questions about their business, how to run it more efficiently, particularly with regard to accounting processes and procedures. We help people prepare their tax returns. We will help them prepare financial statements, all these wonderful things, we do in the world of accounting. And of course, at the same time, not only are we technicians at our craft, meaning knowing how to do accounting and serve clients and help them with their needs, but some of us, that are also part owners of the firm, are small business owners ourselves, and as such, we have employees that we pay. We also have bills to pay, and at the end of the day, of course, the only reason to be in business really, well, there's a lot of reasons, but a key reason is to actually make some money. You take a risk and you hope you make a little bit of money to take home that is above and beyond, what you could earn in wages working for someone else. That's always the hope. Well, anyway, one part of that I really, really don't enjoy is billing related matters. And this is where, I create invoices and send them out, billing our clients for the work that we do. And I have sometimes told people, including clients, that I wouldn't want to pay our bills. It's true. We sometimes send some very large bills, and the only thing we're able to bill, of course, is basically our time. That's kind of what we have to sell. So a lot of times the bills that we create are based on the number of hours that it takes to do a project or something for a client. And I think our clients understand that. And it's kind of like, how if we have a medical problem, we all go see the doctor, most of us. And doctors, in order to become a doctor, you have many, many years of school, 8 years, I think at least, lots of on-site training, at a hospital with clinicals or whatever they call that. And so it's a lot of time, it's a huge investment that a doctor will make, and they're holding people's lives in their hands. So of course, when you're doing something like that, the compensation expectation is going to be way higher than other types of occupations. I think we all inherently understand that. But what is the value of someone's time or service, when it comes to other things, like good old accounting or consulting? And what I've learned over the years is some things, sad to say, are valued more than others, many times for inexplicable reasons. It takes the same amount of effort and brain power to do something. One would think that it would be valued similarly to something else, but that isn't always true. For example, in the work that I do, for whatever reason, people are more willing to pay for having their tax return prepped than they are in, say, having financial statements built for. I'm not sure why that is. There's any number of explanations that I won't bore you with here. Oh, I better turn on my GPS now that I'm doing the back and forth here. Let's maybe close slightly. And we'll give that a try. This didn't really stay on course either. Maybe I need to reset it when I get the next one up. Well, anyway, so on the billing, I try to be as careful as I can. And, all of our work is project-based, so we try to monitor this as the work progresses. But sometimes, for a particularly large project, depending on how it goes, it can have what's called scope creep, which is where a client starts asking and has you do other things in addition to what they originally hired you for, and then somehow conveniently forget that fact and expect you to just include it in the original bill. But a builder, if you had a contract to set up a building that was, 10,000 square feet in size, the builder, of course, would expect more money if you all of a sudden asked him to change it into 20,000 square feet. Or if you asked the builder, if the builder wasn't anticipating doing a whole bunch of design, but because you were too cheap to go to an architect and you asked the builder to design it, they might say, hey, wait a minute, this is scope creep. You only asked me to build it, not to design it, so now more money's going to be needed. Well, it's no different in our occupation too. That kind of thing can happen. And it's fine that happens. Actually, our intention, of course, is to be helpful to our clients and try to help them solve problems. That's ultimately our goal. So it's just natural too when we're working on one project deck and the client is in close proximity, that they would think of additional things that they need to have done. Well, I had a situation this past year where we were doing a financial statement audit for a client. And this is something we've done every year, and it's usually we meet with the board, two months and 1 week following year end. That's kind of just what the normal established timing is, and usually that's plenty of time to get an audit done. I mean, there's a bunch of work to do. We've made that work, with our people for many, many years. Well, this particular year, the client unfortunately lost their controller. A controller is the in-house person that handles all the accounting and bookkeeping and whatnot of the company. And so really when we're coming in to do an audit, we are auditing what the controller did. Well, this guy left right at year end. I mean, talk about inconvenient to the client. It kind of left him high and dry. And with nobody in-house to do the bookkeeping, there was a lot of stumbling around, until they hired a new person. They hired someone to do it on an interim basis, and I mean, this was the accounting needs of this client was very specialized. So not just anyone could do it. Anyway, they had an interim person, and he didn't really work out or do much, but we tried to help him as best we could. Let's see if I can get this on. Yep, it's pulling up. He left, and finally they hired another person, and all summer long, this was way past the due date, and I told them this would happen. With a new person, by the time we got this new person up to speed, it took a ton extra time on our part helping the person, because at that point we had more knowledge about how the system worked for the client than the new person that they hired. So we were kind of helping train the new person and get them up to speed. And there was multiple back and forths. I mean, the new person would create a new trial balance, which is what we use to audit from. It has all the balances, and all the accounts in the company for their finances multiple times. And every time, it would come to us, we would have to change everything in our files. Well, I say everything. We'd have to uproot kind of what we had and replace it with the new, and we did this multiple times. And so you just start seeing the time that's in the project grow and grow beyond what it ordinarily would be. So this really was scope creep because it was related to the audit. It was kind of hard to ferret that out while it was happening. So we just finally completed this project, and a manager and I had the pleasant task of looking over our reports and seeing just how much over we were. And I think we were over by about 80 hours. And it is common when you're working on projects for people to say, well, we're over budget. It's really easy to be over budget on pretty much anything and to take more time than you think it should. And So I know we have some lessons to learn here, but all this to say, I had the pleasant task of going to our client and asking for more money. And I don't know about you, to me, that's a hard thing to do. Clients, they become like friends, and it's just an uncomfortable thing to go to your friend and with your hand out and ask for more. And some of the lessons learned, I guess, for me is just to try to be more vigilant as the work is being done, to recognize those times when there is scope creep so I can talk to the client about it sooner rather than later. It's just always tough having that conversation, no matter when it happens, as needful as it is. So this past Friday, I had a meeting set up. Sometimes when it's a little over and I'm doing my monthly billing, I'll just include an extra charge on the invoice, and I'll maybe say, if you have any questions, give me a call. And I don't know that I've ever had anybody squawk. I try to be very careful, very fair about it too. The reality is, I think we end up writing more time off than we do collecting on it. And then there's other times, if it's a little bit more, I'll put it on the bill, and then I'll send an email or something, or make a phone call and explain it to them a little bit. This one here was large enough, I figured, you know what? I think the right thing to do is to go down and look the CEO in the eye and talk it through. And brother, I hate doing that. I'm not a confrontational type person, and I don't know. It's hard for me to do that kind of thing, even though I know that it's necessary. Being a small business owner, to make sure the bills get paid. It's just, you want to be able to compensate your people for work they do well, be able to bonus them if you have it in the till, to give it to them, and at the end of the day, kind of like I was saying, to actually turn a profit. Because otherwise, it begs the question, well, why continue working on this client, if it isn't going to pay off? So I had that meeting Friday, and I came out of there pleased. I think I was only under $500 from where I really wanted to be anyhow, so it was close enough for our purposes, and he really didn't rake me over the coals too bad, so that was good. But I'll just throw that out there. Maybe some of you enjoy that kind of rough and tumble element of capitalism, and somehow convincing someone else to pay more for your services, or however it is. If you have techniques, I'm all ears, because I'm not very good at that part of it. So, but I'm glad he was willing to pay a little bit more, and I'm glad we had the conversation. We could cover some other things too. Anyway, thank you so much for coming along to listen to me babble while I make a few bales. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.